So in the last session, we started discussing about the fork function. Okay, it's a system call which is used for creating a new process. Okay, the parent process can use fork system call for creating the child process. Okay, so then we discussed a few examples related to fork. So here today we'll discuss about the concept of file sharing. Okay. So here in file sharing, you can see in this diagram, okay, so you know about file descriptor, correct? So we studied in at the beginning of module 3, whenever we try to open a file or create a file or write a file, we'll be having file descriptor. Okay, it's just like a pointer to the file. So here you can see there are three file descriptors, okay, which represents different sort of files, okay, handling different files, maybe a file related to input, output, and error. Okay, so there are three file descriptors, and these are file descriptors belongs to parent process. Okay, and you can see these are the flags and the file pointer. And here the file sharing concept, whenever you use fork system call, the parent process and the child process will be having the duplicate copy of the file descriptor. You can see here all the three descriptor also available in child process. Okay, fork creates a duplicate copy of the file descriptor opened by the parent. Okay, so again, in turn, this file descriptors will be pointing to two tables, that is file table and vnode table. Okay, so that will be having different vnode numbers, inode numbers, and information about the size of the file, different flags, and what is the current offset, that is where exactly the file is pointing. Okay, in this case, the child can write to the standard output. Okay, so there are two processes, parent and the child. So child can write to the standard output while the parent is waiting for it. Imagine that there are two processes. Okay, there are two processes, P1 and P2. So this is parent and this is child. Okay. Now both want to write to a, okay, first will write to the standard output while the parent will wait for it. Okay. On the completion of the child, okay, once the child completes writing to the file, next the parent will continue writing to the standard output file, knowing that its output will be appended to whatever the child wrote. Okay. First the child will write to the file. So imagine this is a file. Okay. First the child will write, maybe assume that it will complete around 5 lines. Okay. After that, the parent will start writing. Okay. So it will start into the standard output. So there are two ways of handling the descriptor after fork. Okay, how will you handle the file descriptors? The parent waits for the child to complete. Okay, the first parent will wait for the child to complete. Okay, so in this case, the parent does not need to do anything with the file descriptor. Okay, when the child terminates, okay, when the child terminates, the shared descriptor that the child read from or wrote to will be, okay, will be updated automatically. Okay, so parent will wait for the child to terminate. Okay. And after the fork, the parent closes all the file descriptor. Once the child completes, the child terminates, then what the parent will do, it will automatically will close all the file descriptor. Okay, that does not need, and the child does the same thing. Okay, once parent closes, okay, the child also will close all the file descriptors. So this is how the file descriptor will be handled. Okay. So there are few points about the child and the parent process. So, so child will be having, okay, different IDs. Okay, child and parent will be having different IDs. For example, they will be having group ID. Okay, then session ID, file mode creation mask, root directories. Okay. So apart from that, they also will be having, okay, the difference between the child and the parent process. Okay, what the child and the parent will be having. So return value from the fork. Okay, the return value. So return value, the parent will be having the ID of the child. Okay. So assume this is ID, 1000 is ID. Then parent will be having this ID, will be returned with the child ID. Okay. And the child will be returned with the value 0. Okay. Then parent will be having the process ID. Okay. And the child also will be having its own ID. Okay. Parent will be having a different ID. For example, 2000. Okay. And the parent process ID. Okay. Then apart from that, it will be having some U time, S time, okay, current time. Okay. Then file locks. Okay, we have studied about the concept of read lock, write lock, and all. So it will be having the parent also will be having the file locks set by the parent and that are not inherited by the child. Then it also will be having pending LRAMs, okay, pending signals. Okay. So these are the things will be there for the child, okay, which is not available in the parent. So the next one is v-fork function. Okay, so don't get confused with fork and v-fork function. Okay, so v-fork function is intended to create a new process. Okay, it is similar to your fork function. Then a fork function will create a new process. Okay, here also we'll be creating a new process. Okay, and whenever you create a new process, okay, isn't that this is a parent and this is a child process? Okay. Now, this parent and child process will be having a different address space in the case of fork function. Okay. In the case of fork system call, these both will be having a different address space. Okay. Different address space. Okay. When the child is running in the address space of the parent until it calls the ext or exit function. Okay. Now, what happens in the case of vfork? So in the case of vfork, okay, both parent and the child both will be having same address space. Okay, here in fork will be having different address space. Okay, but in vfork will be having same address space. So that is one of the difference between fork and address fork, fork and vfork. Okay, and here also we'll be creating a new process, but condition is child process will be running, okay, until it calls exit or exe function. Okay, until, okay, the child will be running until it calls, okay, until it executes this function exit or exe. Okay. So till then, okay, once it executes this exe or exit function, so this child will be terminated. Okay. So another difference between two functions is that v-fork guarantees that the child runs first. So in v-fork, okay, it is sure that the child process will run first until the child calls exe or exit function. So when the child calls either of this function exit or exe, the parent reassumes. The parent will continue its work. Okay. So this is a one point that we have in v-fork. Okay. The child will be executing either of this function. Okay. Once it will execute this either of the function, so this will be automatically it will be killed or it will be terminated, and then parent will continue its work. Okay. So here we have an example. Now, so here we have. So now you can see here we are calling the v-fork system call. Okay, we are calling the v-fork system call. If there is any error, then it will returns less than 0 value. Okay, that is -1 if there is any error. Okay. If no error, okay, the child will be returned with the value PID will be 0. Okay, if no error, if no error. Okay. I just write no if. So if no error, it will be returned with 0. If error, it will be returned with -1. So if -1 means it is less than 0, then it will display this message. Okay, we are not able to create child parent, which will be having different IDs. Okay. Just an example, different IDs will be created. Now it will be returning 0. Okay, if there is no error, so PID is equal to 0. Okay, now what you can observe here is this is a parent process, I mean a child process. Okay, so this is child and this is parent, and here we can see here in the child process we are calling the exit function. That is what is written here. Okay, the child will be running in the same address space as that of parent, but it will either call ext or exit function. So here, the child process, okay, that is what happens in V4. The child process at some point it will call ext function. Okay, now here this is parent and this is for child. This is belong to parent and this belong to child. So here we have V4. Okay. So when you call V4, the parent will create child. Okay. Child is a copy of parent. Similarly, this also will be having V4. And here, apart from that, we have this printf statement. Okay, that comes before. So after that, we have this printf statement. Okay, this printf statement, which will print the value of. Okay, you see, it will print the value of you see it will print the value of uh, here we are printing PID, global and variable. So we are printing these variables. Okay. This is of parent and this is of child. We have V fork. Here also we have V fork. This fork. And here we have this printf statement. Okay. And again here we have this printf statement. Okay. Now what the child will do, the child will increment the value of, and one more thing is, as V4 we said they will be having the same address space. In V4, that is one of the difference, they will be having the same address space. Will pointing the child runs in the address space of the parent. Okay, that means, okay, the address space means they will be having the same copy of all the data. Okay, all the data they will be having pointing to the same data. In the child process, okay, this is about child process. What we are doing is we are incrementing the value of global. So what is there in this address space? This address space will be having, they will be having same address space. So they will be having this variable, okay, global, okay, which is initially set to 6. They also will be having this where, which is set to 88. Now, in the child process, what we are doing is we are incrementing the value of global, okay, so GLOB, that is, then, okay, this is one statement, one more statement, it should become, we should come below actually, Okay, we are also incrementing the value of where. Okay, supposed to come in the next line. Okay, we are incrementing the value of glob variable and where variable. Okay, and then we are executing exit system call, which will terminate the child. So what the child will do? Child will increment the value of this and this variable. Okay, so what is the value of that? So initially it was 6, now it will become 7. Okay, and this will become now 89. Okay. So here, what is the value? The updated value of this is 80, sorry, 7, 7, and here it is 89. So you can see they both are pointing to the same address space. Okay. Now what happens is the child will terminate. Okay, child will terminate. So since the child terminates, okay, it will not go for this printf statement. Okay. But the parent will execute this printf statement. In the case of fork, what will happen? This exit statement will not be there. Okay, this exit is not there in fork, but in the exit statement, which will the child. Okay, so since we are calling exit, it will not executing this printf statement. We only will be executing this printf statement, which belongs to the parent. Okay, what is there in the printf statement? Printf statement will print the ID of the uh, parent. Okay, let us assume that its ID is 607. Okay, so it will print the PID, it will print the parent ID, okay, and it will print the value of global. What is the value? It is 7. Okay, what is the variable value? It is 89. Okay, so there will be only one printf statement. Okay, so we will be having only one output. Okay, how will be the output? So first it will print this message. Okay, before flush, okay, before and then it will print the printf statement. Okay, what is the value of printf statement? It will print PID is equal to 607, okay, comma, glow G is equal to 7, okay, comma, where is equal to 89. Okay. Suppose if you remove this, okay, suppose if you remove this, then you will be having two printf statements. Okay, we can try to execute this without by removing this. Okay, just remove this. Okay, and use this instead of fork. We fork, use fork. Okay, so make that change and try to execute the program. At that point, we will be having two printf statements. But here, since we are executing the exit statement, okay, the child will terminate. Okay, the child will terminate, and we will be executing only one printf statement. Okay. So the next one is exit function. Okay. Sometimes they may ask you in the exam, explain fork and bfork function. Okay, with example. Okay, so you have to give the example. So next one is ext function, exit function. Okay. There are three ways. Okay, usually there are 5 ways. Okay, so together there are 5 ways for terminating a process. Okay. So you can see here, these are the 5 points. Okay. So you can use the return statement in the main function as a normal termination. Okay, or we can use the exit function. Okay. So exit function can also terminate the process, or we can use this function, okay, underscore ext function or small letter underscore ext function. Okay, that is also go for normal termination. Apart from this, these three belongs to normal termination. Okay. Apart from normal termination, we can also go for abnormal termination. So these two are abnormal termination. The abnormal termination means forcefully you are terminating the process. Okay. So you are forcefully calling abort. Okay. Abort will, it's a special case, okay, which will generate the signal. It will generate this signal, okay, which will terminate the process. Okay. So when a kernel will give the signal to the process, the kernel process will terminate. Okay, that is called as abnormal termination. So when the process receives certain signals, okay, apart from the signal, there are few more signals. Okay, so for example, the signal generated by the kernel includes process referring to the memory location not within the address space. Okay, so this is one example. Okay, it is referring to an address space which is not there in the memory location. Okay, in that case, the signal will be generated, the process terminates, or sometimes it also will generate the signal when you try to divide by 0. Okay, anything, okay, maybe status of a kernel or status of a process, you are trying to divide it by 0. In that case, the certain signals will be generated. Exit status is used to notify parent how the child terminates. Okay. So here it is notification, okay, how the parent terminates, child terminates. When the parent terminates before child, okay, so suppose the parent terminates before child, the child is inherited by a special process that is called as a init process. So this is a process that belongs to the kernel, which we call it as a init process. Okay. Sometimes if you have uh, a child which don't have any parent, in that case, for that child, this will become the parent. Okay. If the child terminates before the parent, then the information about uh, that, okay, is obtained by the parent when it executes the wait PID function. Okay. So these are the two important functions which is used for getting the information. Okay. So what are the information which you can get using these two functions? So we can get the process ID of the child, terminating status, how it is terminated, whether it is a normal termination, okay, what amount of resources it has used, for example, how much CPU time it has used. So all this information will be returned to the parent using this wait and wait PID function. Process has terminated, okay, but whose parent has not yet waited for it. Okay. The process has terminated. For example, a child process has terminated, okay, but parent is not waiting till the child terminates. So that case is called as a zombie process. Okay. So that we call it as a, so this is a special process, a zombie process. Okay. So when a process inherited by init, okay, in this case, okay, in this case, what happens? The parent terminates before the child. So child is inherited by the init. So process inherited by the init terminates. Okay. So it does not become a zombie process. Okay. Init executes one of the wait function to fetch the terminating status. So this is a bit of theory. Okay, go through that theory. So the next one is wait and wait PID function. Okay, so this is also very important function. When the process terminates, okay, or maybe it may be a normal termination, or you have done some signal has generated and it is a normal termination. So in that case, the parent should be notified by the notified, okay, telling that the process has terminated. Okay, in that case, how the parent will be notified? The parent will be notified by sending a signal, that a signal name is CHLD. So this is the signal which will be sent to the parent by the kernel. Okay. Okay. This is a parent process. Okay. This process has terminated, okay, due to some ways, maybe a normal or abnormal termination. Then what will happen? A signal will be sent. Okay. That signal name is SIG CHLD. Okay, so this is a special signal which is sent to the parent by the kernel. Okay, who notifies? The kernel notifies the parent, okay, telling that this child has terminated. Okay. So now what the parent can do when it receives the signal? So it can either choose to ignore the signal. It can ignore the signal. Okay, it can ignore the signal, or it can provide a function that is called when the signal occurs. Okay, so when the signal occurs, okay, what it can do, either it can ignore the signal or it can call some special function. Okay, it can call some special function. Okay, so default way is ignoring the signal. Okay. Now the process that calls, okay, the process can call this special two functions when the child terminates. Okay, when the child terminates, when it receives the signal, it can call the special function. Okay, I said it can call special function. So these are the two special functions, that is wait and wait PID. Okay. So now when the parent receives a signal, what it can do? When the parent receives a signal by the kernel, the signal, what it can do? So it can block the signal. Why? Why to block? Okay. Sometimes it may be necessary that the process may be waiting for all the child to be terminate. Okay. Maybe if all of its child are still running, okay, it may be having one CH2, maybe there are 3, 4 child. Okay, these childs are still running. Okay, in that case, only one child has terminated. Only this child has terminated. So what it can do, it can block this signal. Okay, indicating that it is waiting for these two child for to terminate. Okay, it will wait for these two child to terminate. So till then, it will block the signal. Okay, it will block this signal. Then one more way is, okay, it returns immediately with the terminating status of the child. So what it will do when it receives the signal, okay, what it can do, it will immediately, okay, it will immediately want to know the terminating status. Okay, so how it is terminated, the terminating status of the child. Okay, it can request for the terminating status of the child. Okay. Then it can also receive, okay, it can also receive an error, immediately return with error. Okay, it can also return with an error message. It can also request for an error message when it receives this signal. Okay, why the child has terminated. Okay. So this is a prototype of the wait and PID, wait PID. Okay. So here in wait PID, so we have in wait we have one parameter, and here we have 3 parameters. Okay. So difference between these two are, the wait can block the caller until the child process terminates. Okay. So wait can block, okay, here wait can block the caller, okay, until the child process terminate. Okay. So in wait PID we have different options. Okay, we have different options here. Okay, that can be used. These options can be used. Okay, that can prevent it from blocking. So these are different integer pointers. So here, so stat block. So it is a pointer to an integer. Okay. So here the terminating status of the terminating process is stored in the location pointed to the this argument. So this argument is meant for, okay, this argument is a pointer which will be pointing to the terminating status. Okay. This will be pointing to the terminating status. Okay. So these options can be used to, so these options can be used for managing the block. Okay. So whether you want to get blocked, or whether you want to block the signal or you don't want to block the signal. So that can also be done using these options. Okay. So this is the ID. Okay. Process ID. So if the child has already terminated, okay, so then it is called as a zombie process. Okay. So wait returns immediately with this child status. Okay, what wait will do? So wait will, okay, So what wait will do? If suppose the child is terminated, okay, wait will return with the child status. Okay, so it will return with the status. Okay, status of the termination, terminating child status. Otherwise, it blocks a caller until the child terminates. Okay. So what it will do? It will block the signal until all the child terminates. If the caller blocks and has a multiple children, it waits return. Okay, when one terminates. Okay, what it can do? It can wait for all the child to terminate, or what it can do when it has multiple child, it can give the return. It can return with the child terminating status one by one. Okay, first it can return with this, then it can return with this child status, and then it can return with this child status. Individually, it can return the child terminating status. Okay, terminating status is nothing but it will be having all the informations. Okay, how much memory or how much resources it has used, what type of file it has used, how much um, what is its ID. Okay, so all this information will be there in the terminating status. So individual can be returned to the parent process. Okay, or it can wait for all the child to terminate, and then at one time it can return the terminating status. Okay, all the three childs it can return together the terminating status. So here, okay, we said here in wait PID. Okay, what are the we have? So in wait PID. Okay. So this PID, the interpretation of PID in wait PID depends on its value. So what are the values that this PID can have? So this PID, what are the values it can have? So it can have value -1. Okay, suppose if this is -1, okay, what does means? That means it is waiting for any child. Okay. So it is waiting for some child to terminate. If it is greater than 0, that means it is waiting for the child whose parent ID is equal to PID. Okay. If it is equal to 0, it waits for the child whose parent group ID is equal to the calling process. Okay. So here it is checking the process group ID. If it is -1, then it is waiting for the process group ID will be equal to the absolute value of the PID. So these are four things you have to remember. So these are the four values you can give for this PID. Okay. So wait PID helps us to wait for a particular process. We can wait for particular child process to terminate. It is non-blocking version of wait. Okay. So using this option, you can either, okay, or you can make non-blocking. Okay. Non-blocking means uh, you can block the signal, okay, and you can perform certain operations. It supports new one more concept is job control, scheduling of the jobs. Okay. So we said that wait have different options. What are the options we can have? So you can these are different names, okay, of the constant option values. Okay. So this option wait PID function will not block. Okay, it will not block. Okay. So this will not block if the child specified by the PID is not immediately available. Okay, and it returns a value 0. Okay, just go through this. Okay, these are the constants. So this is one example. Okay, printing the description of the exit status. So you can see here, these are used for printing the exit status. This is used for, so this is one, these are all called as macros. Okay, these are all called as macros, small functions. You can see here, this is a function void ext. Inside void ext function, we have these statements. So this is our main program, okay, demonstrating various exit status. So you can see here, This is a normal program, okay, the simple program. We are creating child process. So this is a child process. Okay. The child process is calling exit 7. Okay, it is exiting. And we can call wait, and wait can be used to get the status of the child process. Okay. If there is any error, it will return the error statement. Okay. Or else we can use to print its exit status. So here we are calling the function pr exit. Where is that function? It is here. Pr exit function. Okay. Similarly, here also. Okay. If it is returning the value less than 0, you are creating the process. Okay, it is returning less than 0. It is error. Okay. Or else, okay, what we are doing here. So this is a normal execution. Okay. Exit means it is a normal execution. Correct, right? We saw here. What are the different types of execution? I mean, termination. Exit comes where in the so exit or ext, all these are normal execution. Okay, so this here what we are doing here. Here we are terminating the process, but here it is a normal termination. Okay. So this is normal termination. Here what we are doing, we are calling the function abort, which will generate the signal. Sig abort. Okay, so this is abnormal termination. Okay, we are calling the signal and terminate. Okay. So in that case, get the status. So we can go for wait. Okay, we can call this wait function and get the status of the terminated process. Okay, or we can call this function pr exit function and getting the status. Okay. Next again here, this is one more. Okay, this is also abnormal termination. Why? Because what we are doing here is we are getting the status, okay, and we are trying to divide it by 0. So we have studied there. This is also abnormal signal. Abnormal signal will occur when you are trying to divide it by 0. Here what we are doing, we are trying it to divide it by 0. What does this mean? Status is equal to status divided by 0, correct? This is similar to this. A plus is equal to 1. We have studied in C programming, right? This means what? A is equal to A plus 1. Okay. So we are doing what here? We are dividing the status by 0. At that time, the abnormal termination occurs. Okay. So these are the two cases where the abnormal termination occurs. Okay. So in the abnormal termination, we are executing this pr exit function, and here also we are executing pr exit function. Okay. And this is for normal termination using exit function, and we are executing this pr exit function. Okay, so this is for normal termination. These two are for abnormal termination. So one way of abnormal termination is using abort system call, and another one is you divide the status by 0. Okay, you can see here 3 times we are creating the process. This is first time we are creating the process, and we are terminating the process here, child process. Okay, again here we are creating parent process is creating the child process, and it is terminating using abort. Here also we are creating the process, and here we are dividing the status by 0. Okay, here we are, how we are doing, we are generating the signal, that is this signal, okay, by dividing the status by 0. Okay, so you can try to execute this program. Here in pr exit, okay, this is a function for pr exit. Here you can see we are calling different macros. Okay, so this is a macro which is used for normal termination. Okay, so this and all you have to remember. Okay, this is macro used for normal termination. Okay, so this macro returns 0 true if the status was written for a child that terminated normally. Okay, so here there is one more, that is this macro. Okay, this is a macro that returns true if the status was returned for a child that terminated abnormally. Okay, this is used for abnormal termination. This is a macro that is executed for abnormal termination. Okay, and this is one more. Okay, core dump. So, so this is for abnormal termination. So in the abnormal termination, we are calling this macro, and this is one more. Okay, so this is true. The status, this macro will return true. Okay, if the status was written for a child that is currently stopped. Okay, this is for stop. If you are stopping the child. Okay, so you remember these two. This is used for abnormal termination. This is a macro that is written for abnormal termination. So I can see here. So here we are doing normal termination and we are calling here exit function. Okay, what happens here? Okay. So we are calling the normal execution. Okay, we are calling here exit function. Now it will enter to this here exit function. So in this here exit function, okay, it will return zero, true, correct? Because this is a macro which is meant for normal termination and it returns true. So in that case, what it will do? It will print normal termination. Okay, it will print the exit status. What is exit status? You have passed. What is the exit status you have passed? It is 7. So what it will do? It will print here normal termination exit status is equal to 7. Okay. So that is about normal termination. Now these two are for abnormal termination. When you execute from here, okay, it will go for abnormal termination and then it will call this PR exit. Okay. So PR exit, what it will do? Okay. So here exit will go for this first if statement. So this if statement it will not execute because this is for normal termination. So it will go to the else if statement. The else if statement, this is for abnormal termination. Yes, now we have done abnormal termination. So it will return a true. Okay, and it will print abnormal termination comma signal number is. So it is using this. Okay, it is using this function, and this is a function, okay, which will execute this macro, okay, and it will return the some exit status. Okay, for example 6. Okay, 6. So this is an example for exit status. And here, what is the code dump value? So code dump value is 6. Okay, 6 is, so this is a conditional statement. Okay, the conditional statement. So 6 means it is true, so it will execute the first statement and it will display the message 4 file generated. So how it will print? For abnormal termination comma signal number, okay, is equal to 6. Okay, in the bracket it will print 4 file generated. Okay, and similarly it will go for the next one. Okay, here also we are doing abnormal termination. It will call the PR exit statement. Okay, so in that case also it will go for this abnormal termination. Okay, abnormal termination. Same way it will print this also. But here, since we are dividing the status by 0, it will be having different exit status. For example, age. Okay, rest all is same. Okay. So here in this example, we are demonstrating different exit statement. Okay, what happens during normal termination and what happens during the abnormal termination. So this is for abnormal termination and this is for normal termination. Okay. So one more is wait 3 and wait 4 function. So these two functions, okay, it is similar to the wait and wait PID. So what this will do is this statement wait 3 and wait 4. Okay, this function returns the summary of the resources used by the terminated process and all its child process. Okay, so this is meant for what? Returning the resources. Okay, what are the resources used by the terminated process? Okay, so here you can see, so what are the resources it will return? Okay, resources information includes amount of CPU time used. Okay, then it will return, is there any page fault or what are the signals received? Okay, how much amount of memory used? All these things are returned using this wait 3 and wait 4 process. I mean function. Okay, so here we have different arguments. Okay. So these are different arguments where we are passing the pointer to the. So this is the pointer to the terminating status options, different options. Okay. So this are so just a brief introduction. Okay. The example is not provided in the textbook. So mainly this is meant for giving the resources used by the terminated process. Okay, maybe the child or the parent process. So this term is important. Resources used. Okay. So next one is race condition. So race condition occurs when multiple processes are trying to do something with the shared data. Okay. So there are different. There is a shared data. Okay, shared data, maybe a variable or a memory location which is shared by multiple processes. Okay. Now, multiple processes are trying to use this shared data and final outcome depends on the order in which the process runs. Okay. How this is maybe a process one, okay, this may be a child process. All these are using this shared data. Shared data may be having shared function or shared simple local variable data or anything. Okay. Both the process are using this shared data. Now race condition is okay. Race condition is multiple processes are trying to use a shared data. In the race condition, we are telling how the process, in which order the process will be using this shared data. Whether process 1 is given first or process 2 is given first to the shared data. The order in which the process will be using this shared data. Okay. So this is illustrated with an example. You can see here. So this is our main function. Okay, you can see this is our main function, which has a uh, program function definition. Okay, this is a function which is declared here. Okay, this is complete function. Now what we are doing here is we are having the main process. Okay, and here we are having a child process. So this is main process and this is child process and U, P and C. Okay, now we are executing fork system call. So fork system call will create the child process, okay, which will be having same as a copy of the parent. Okay. And here we are calling the function, the name of the function is character a time. Okay, so I'll just give the name C. Okay, here both the parent and the child will be calling this function. Okay. Now race condition is whether parent will be executing first this function or the child will be executing this function first. Okay. That is a race condition. Okay. Now imagine that. So it depends on the operating system. Okay. How the priority will be given, whether the parent is given priority or the child is given the priority. Now let us assume that. Okay, okay. Now this is for condition. Okay. After that the child will be created. Now this both will be executing this function. Okay, both will be executing this function. Now the condition is whether this is executing first or the child is executing first. Okay, imagine that the child is given first priority. So what the child will do? Child will enter this program. It will display the message. Okay, output from child. Okay, okay. Then parent function will be executed. Parent will display the message. Output from parent. Okay. So this is one condition, okay, one race condition. So here what we are telling, child is given first priority, then parent is given second priority. So this is one race condition. Okay. Now let us assume that okay, You can see here we have 2O here, correct? Okay, here also we have 2O. Okay. Now what happens is, this is one more condition. Okay. First, for some amount of time, okay, fraction of time, child will be allowed to execute. So at that time, what it will do? It will print the first O. Okay. Then what will happen? Okay, sorry. First, the parent will be given some amount of time to execute. So it will print some first O. After that, certain fraction of second, this child will be given the priority. So there will be switching between the parent and the child. Okay. Some amount of time the parent is given, then child will be given. Okay, like this there will be switching. So at that time, what will happen? It will start printing something like this. O. Okay. O. U. U. P, okay, something like this it will start printing. Okay, so there is no clear picture that who is given the priority. Okay, so it will start printing each individual characters based on the time it is allotted. Okay, so it will not give the clear output. Okay, so there will be switching. So first the parent will be executing, it will be printing the character. You can see here it is meant for printing the character, right? Output C. So it is printing one character, okay, from this. Okay, then it is printing from one character from this. Again, it will print two character from this. Then it will print one character from this. So there is a switching between the parent and the child. So that is called as race condition. Okay. So clearly, the parent or the child will not be given any time. Okay. So parent will be given some time, and the child will be given another time for executing the function. So the next one is exe function. Okay. So exe function, okay, when the process calls on one of the exe function, so here we have around 6 exe function. Okay, there are in Unix we have 6 exe function. So these are all exe function. Okay, exit function. Okay, so you can see here these are all exe function. You have to remember this. Okay, this is a prototype of exe function. Okay. So what happens is, when the process calls exe function, any of the 6 exe function, the process is completely replaced by the new program. So what it will do? The process is completely replaced with the new program, and the new program starts executing at its main function. Okay, you can see here, assume that I'll focus on the first exe function. Okay. Now, when the process execute this exe function, what it will do? It will start executing the new program. So where is the new program? The new program path will be specified here. So this path is nothing but the path of the new program. So where is the new program? For example, it is in the C drive. Okay, somewhere in under programs, under that files you have one file with the program 1.c. Okay, so 1.c you have this. Okay, that is a path name. So what this, when you execute this function, what it will do? The process will be completely replaced with a new program. Which is this new program? It is 1.c. The new program will start executing at its main function. Now what it will do? It will stop the current program and it will start executing this 1.c program. Okay. The process ID does not change. That is also important. Okay, the process ID does not change across exe because the new process is not created. You are not creating the new process, but what you are doing? You are just running the new program. Okay, and merely replacing the current process. You are replacing the current process. Okay, new process is not creating. Now the same process which was running this exe, okay, function will start executing this 1.c program. Okay, so the difference here is, you have in the first 4 you have path name. Okay, you are giving the path name of the new program. In the last 2 you are giving the file name. Okay, and for few we are passing the arguments as array. Okay, and for few we are just telling what are the arguments: argument 0, argument 1, argument 2, argument passing mechanism. Okay, so this will be clear, okay, with the example. So look at this example. I have a program. Okay, this program name is, Okay, this program name is echo all. Okay, this is a new program. Okay, the program name is echo all. Okay. So you can have any extension. Since this is a C program, we have the extension .c echo all. Okay, this is our program. Now look at this. Okay, so this is our program. You can see here what we are doing. We are using for loop. Okay, which will be printing the arguments, and here we will be having the for loop. One more for loop which will be printing the environmental variables. Okay. Now look at this. This is our main program. Okay. So this is our main program process. Okay. Which will start executing this program. Now, at some point of time, we are calling this exe function. So in the exe function, so you can see here what is the exe function, exele, which function we are calling? This function, any six function you can use. Okay, we are using in the example this function. So what is our arguments? Path name, okay, argument 0, so on you can have, and last one is a one more pointer for holding the environmental variable. Okay, this is a path name. These are all arguments. Okay, and this is for environmental variable. Okay, so this is for environmental variable. Okay, so in the path name, we are specifying the path of the one more name, nothing but echo all. Okay, so what program we are calling? The process. Okay, so that is a definition. Okay, the process will call another program. What is another program it is calling? So that is nothing but echo all. So it will stop. Okay, it will stop the current program execution and it will start executing this echo all program. Okay, so the same process, okay, which was executing this main program will now stop and it will start executing this. Okay, so now what is there in echo all? Go through echo all. Okay, so you are passing. This is our argument 0. We are 0. Okay, this is argument 1, this is argument 2. Okay, and these are all, this will give you environmental variable. Okay, now go to the program. Okay, here we are printing the arguments. Okay, what arguments it will print? So it will print, how it will print? Argument v of 0 colon. Okay, what is our first argument? It is what? Argument 0 is what? This one, echo all. So what it will print? It will print echo all. Okay. So it is switching between the program. Okay. That time it was executing that main program. Now when you call exe program, suddenly it will start executing this program. Okay. Similarly, argument of 1, what is there in 1? It will, argument of 1 is what? My arg1. Okay. So my arg1. Similarly, argument of 2. Okay. So how many arguments we are passing? 3 arguments we are passing. Okay. So this is my argument 2. Okay. So these are all 3 arguments. And then it will start executing this printf for loop for printing the environmental variable. So it will print what? It will print some environmental variable. Okay. So that depends on the operating system. Okay. So we have uh, different environmental variables. For example, user, home, okay, shell, okay, different we have, okay, different environmental variables we have. So based on that, it will start printing the environmental variable. Around 32 environmental, nearly 40 environmental variables we have in the system. Okay, so it will print those environmental variables. And you can see here, again, we are creating one more process, and here also we are executing which function? exlp. So what is that function exlp? So that is this function. Okay, one more function we are calling, okay, exlcp. So what is the difference? Here we are passing file name and we are passing the arguments here. What is the file name we are passing here? Name of the file. What is the name of the file here? Echo all. So that will be passed. So echo all. Okay. So this is our argument 0. Okay. This is our argument 1. Okay. And this are all our environmental variable. Again, okay, you can see here. Again, okay. So again, when you execute the program, it will print this. Okay. So it will print argument 0, echo all. Argument 1 is what? Only 1. Okay. And it will start printing the environmental variables. So these are all environmental variables. Shell, home. Okay, like this, it will start printing all the environmental variables. Okay. So this is our main program. So when you execute this exe function, okay, suddenly it will stop the execution of this main program and it will start executing the new program which you have specified as a path name or as a file name. Okay, so this is about exe function. Okay, so thank you. This completes your third module. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Answer attendance.